You're looking for a desktop that won't take up a whole side of the office, that stays cool while you're juggling spreadsheets, CAD files, or a few Photoshop layers, and that actually feels worth the money instead of just a shiny spec sheet. It's easy to get caught up in the hype of ultra-fast processors and 8 GB of GPU memory, but the real question is whether the machine lives up to the day-to-day grind without demanding a separate cooling pad or a constant upgrade budget. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When you stare at a mini PC like the HP Z2 G1i, the first hesitation most buyers have is the fear of buying a tiny box that either overheats under load or forces you to compromise on ports you actually need. I've spent the last few weeks comparing several small form factor workstations, reading forum threads about thermal throttling, and watching a handful of creators swap out their bulky towers for something that fits on a tight desk. What emerged was a pattern. The sweet spot is a machine that can keep up with moderate creative work, handle multiple displays, and still stay quiet enough that you don't hear it over a conference call. The Z2 G1i tries to hit that sweet spot, but there are a few practical details that decide if it's the right fit for you. Let's start with the size. The chassis is a classic black brick, about the footprint of a mid-size router. It slides easily under a standing desk or onto a narrow shelf, which is a huge win if your office space is at a premium. The rear panel, however, is a little cramped. You get an Ethernet jack, a few USB-A ports, a single HDMI, and a DisplayPort, but the arrangement feels a bit like a puzzle. You'll need a short extension cable for the Ethernet if your router lives a foot away, and you can't plug a USB-C hub directly without a little bend. For most users who run a keyboard, mouse, and 1 or 2 external monitors, it's manageable, but if you rely on a slew of USB-C peripherals, you'll quickly reach for an adapter. The heart of this machine is an Intel Core Ultra 9285, paired with 32 GB of RAM and a 1 TB SSD. In real-world terms, that means opening a large Excel workbook, pulling up a couple of Chrome tabs, and launching Lightroom without the dreaded waiting for memory message. I tested it by loading a 500-page PDF, then switching to a 4K video timeline in DaVinci Resolve. The system stayed responsive, and the SSD delivered near-instant file access. The integrated AI-powered features that Intel markets are mostly under the hood, but they do help with background task allocation, keeping the UI snappy while the GPU and 8 GB NVIDIA card handles modest rendering. If you're a freelance graphic designer who does occasional 3D mockups or video edits, you'll notice a smooth workflow, but you won't be able to render complex animations at the speed of a full-tower workstation. Thermals are often the make-or-break for mini PCs, and the Z2 G1i uses HP's W880 chipset with a single fan that draws air from the bottom and exhausts out the back. In a test run of continuous 3D rendering for about an hour, the fan ramped up to a noticeable hum but never crossed the threshold of being disruptive. The temperature settled around 70 C under load, which is respectable for a chassis this small. If you plan to keep the machine on the 24th of July, you'll want to make sure the surrounding space isn't closed off. A little clearance behind the unit helps maintain that quiet operation. One of the biggest practical concerns is upgradability. The Z2 G1i's design allows you to pop open the side panel and add an extra M.2 SSD, which is a nice touch if you anticipate needing more storage down the line. However, the RAM is soldered onto the board, so the 32 GB you get out of the box is the maximum. For most professional users, 32 GB is ample, but if you're a heavy video editor working with 8K footage, you might feel constrained. The GPU is also not user-replaceable, meaning you're locked into the 8 GB NVIDIA card for the life of the machine. That's a trade-off you need to weigh against the convenience of a compact form factor. Now, who should actually buy this? If you're a small business owner, a remote worker, or a freelancer who needs a reliable workstation for day-to-day tasks like CAD drafting, photo editing, or data analysis, the Z2 G1i delivers solid performance without the bulk. Its modest footprint makes it ideal for shared office desks where space is at a premium, and the built-in Windows 11 Pro gives you enterprise-grade security right out of the box. The combination of a strong CPU, decent GPU, and fast SSD means you can run multiple professional applications simultaneously without noticeable lag. Who should skip it? If you're a serious 3D animator, a game developer working with high-poly models, or someone who needs multiple high-resolution monitors plus a slew of USB-C peripherals, you'll likely outgrow this machine quickly. The limited port selection.